Welcome to Pivot to Progress, where we hear real stories of real pivots made here in the UAE. Now, so often when we think about pivoting and a career pivot, career changes, we think of leaving that 9 to 5 and becoming a founder, becoming an entrepreneur. But what if you don't want to do that? What if you want to keep the stability of a 9 to 5, but move to a different sector? Well, that's what my next guest did. He is the advertising director for TimeOut Dubai and Doha. David, welcome to Pivot to Progress.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for having me.
My fellow Londoner, my friend as well.
I know, exactly. It's just a great thing to be here, honestly.
Thank you so much. You know, when I was looking through your career and your CV and everything, I was like, he's made so many pivots. You've made a pivot into healthcare, and then you pivoted out from the healthcare and moved into like advertising, sustainable finance as well was one of them. Event management and global at that level, global event management and communications, marketing. The list can go on and on and on. But I was wondering, you know, how did you convince employers when you were making those various different pivots? How did you convince them, persuade them that, you know, this is a plus for them? And how did you manage to do that beyond just talking about your transferable skills?
Honestly speaking, you take on the skills that you learned from the previous role, and you kind of just utilize that within your current role and then adapt towards that sector. A lot of the transferable skills can be used across different sectors, especially in advertising. It's just about understanding how to become an industry expert. When people come to most of the media outlets that I was working for, they came to us wanting that expertise. They came to us wanting the expert advice. So actually, the major, I would say, key issue that you had to find was actually becoming an industry expert as opposed to using your transferable skills.
So when you're in that job interview, for example, I think for example, like the health and safety and healthcare sector, and then you moved on to the next, how did you talk to them? How did you explain to them that, hey, I'm the best candidate?
So I went into these interviews just being who I am. Who is the real David Wurie? You know, talking to them about all the extracurricular activities that I was doing outside of my 9 to 5. And I feel like employers like to see that. They like to see that you have a life outside of work, but also they like to see what else you can do and what other attributes you can bring to the table. Because I was doing a lot of youth work at the time, I was always a good communicator. Because I did a bit of charity work as well, I was obviously offering my time and services. So they could see that I was a hard worker. They could see that I worked diligently, but then they could also see that I worked with people and I had good people skills. So talking about your extracurricular activities, doing other things outside of your 9 to 5 would always benefit you in any interview process.
We're going to hear more about some of those extracurricular activities because there's still things that you do, you know, namely Bright Exchange. We're going to get to that. But I want us to shift to pivot to how you ended up at TimeOut, because take us back to, was it 2021? So we're still in the pandemic.
Absolutely.
And what happened around there?
I wasn't actually looking to move from London to the UAE. I got a random email from my now boss saying that she has seen my CV, she liked what she saw, and she wanted to have a chat. So for me, I was in London, I was really comfortable, I was a responsible investor at the time, it was a really good role, I had a really good team around me, and I was really liking what I did. Worked very closely with the CEOs, and, you know, we also had, you know, other extracurricular activities that we were doing outside of work as well. A lot of it was for the youth work as well, and, you know, some charity stuff also. So when this email came in, I wasn't in a place where I wanted to move. But I saw TimeOut. Everybody knows the TimeOut brand, especially growing up in London. Everyone knows what TimeOut's all about. You know, best things to do, where to go, you know, inspiration.
Yeah, top 10 things to do on the weekend.
Precisely. Do you know what I mean? That's what I always...
New restaurant openings,
exactly.
brunches.
Yeah. Who doesn't like that?
Exactly.
You know?
Family activities.
Right, precisely. And then, of course, Dubai was attached to that. So I thought, you know what? It's worth having that conversation. So interestingly, I didn't actually apply for for the role per se. Then I had the conversation. I believe it was a 2-stage interview after that conversation. And what's interesting, I actually didn't hear back from my current employer for a month. So I thought, you know what, it's not meant to be. I just carried on life, you know, as normal. And I was very set in staying in the UK, you know. And I got a random email again, basically saying, "Hi, David, can we have a catch up?" So I thought, you know, I was going to get constructive feedback, you know, to say, "Oh, thank you for your time. Just you weren't the right fit," etc., which I was more than happy about. And also, I actually wanted to take on the feedback to see what I could do, you know, moving forward in terms of how I can better myself, etc. So jumped on a call, and the first thing she said to me is, "David, since our interview, I haven't stopped thinking about you," but not in a weird way, obviously.
I was just like,
Yeah, I was like, okay, this is what happens in Dubai.
okay then.
Which I found really, really funny. It's very, you know, there's a humor aspect to that. And she was not in a funny way, but since the interview, you know, I really thought that you were a great fit and would be a great fit for the team. And then she said, "I want to offer you the role." And I said, "Wow, seriously?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I said, "When would you want me to start?" And she said, "Immediately." So I didn't know whether to accept the role right there and then, because of course there's so much to consider, so much to think. Once again, it is pivoting from one sector to another. So I'll be going straight from finance to hospitality, and I've had no experience in hospitality whatsoever. So it wasn't something that it wasn't a decision that I could make straight away. And I said to her, I said, "I'm going to have to think about this." The whole time it took for me to move was about 3 or 4 months.
Okay, then.
From when I gave the yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you gave the yes after a month of the offer.
Yeah. So how did I come about the offer? Well, I was asking numerous people, so friends, family, and I kid you not, it was about a 50-50 split down the middle. Some were saying stay, some were saying move.
What were the ones that were saying stay? What were their reasons for remaining?
Because I was comfortable, you know. I was in a good job. I was, you know, living quite healthily at the time as well. I had obviously my family, the foundations were all based in the UK. So I was in a very comfortable place. So they were saying, and this was just off the back of COVID as well, by the way. So there was still a lot of uncertainty around all of us where it comes to job security, and making such a big move post-COVID. I think, you know, most people will probably ask you, like, "Is everything okay with you?" You know,
like
check
a reaction,
your senses.
in reaction to everything. It was like, okay, I'm going to make this move. It's like, are you okay? Is that what you mean? Okay.
So a lot of people were saying that it's not sustainable as well, because you're moving to a new country, you're going to have to restart all over again. Everything you've worked hard for, you know, over the last 8 to 9 years in advertising, you know, could actually kind of go, you know, crashing down basically. So it was tough. And honestly speaking, I looked at it and I couldn't make a decision. I was really split. And there was one conversation that I had with my business mentor at the time, and I'll never forget this. And I asked Grant this, and I told him, "This is my situation, what should I do?" And he said, "David, jump, and if the net catches you, then it's meant to be." As soon as he said that, that was me done. You know, I made that decision, and I said, "Right, I'm taking the job and I'm moving." That was it.
Wow.
And it allowed me to, you know, I mean, this move has just allowed so many opportunities, like in terms of networking, in terms of people skills, just in terms of experience. It's taught me so much. And honestly, I do not have any regrets whatsoever. It's been such a profitable move, beneficial move. It's been a move that I've grown from this move as well.
In what way?
I would say in terms of the person that I am, I have grown massively.
You need more David, okay? It's not like you don't know what I'm like. I'm a detail-oriented woman. In terms of, in what way has it helped you to grow?
So being in the position that I'm in right now, you know, you're dealing with people. Being in management, you know, you have to understand different character traits, different personas, etc. Having to deal with, those that you work with, around having to manage clients, their expectations. So this role has actually allowed me to grow within my patience as well. So you have to have a lot of patience in advertising, especially in the UAE, in terms of being compatible to work with people and work with clients. I've had to learn how to adapt and grow and actually be a little bit more versatile. Whereas when dealing with, financial institutions, banks, hedge funds, venture capitals, etc., it's very one-dimensional. Whereas here, you've kind of got to be a jack of all trades. So in that aspect, you kind of had to put on different masks as well, because certain clients require certain requirements from you, whereas other clients are a little bit more laid back, probably don't necessarily want to impact the campaign too much. Then you have others that they want, to be extremely hands-on, etc. So just learning how to deal with people, I've grown in that area. My patience grown massively as well. Management style, that's grown as well. So yeah, those are the areas, Sarah.
I accept that answer. And I think it's quite interesting that you said the split was 50-50. No need to ask you about what the people were saying, like, go for it or doing it. But like those people that were, is saying the word detractors too strong a word maybe, who were saying like, oh no, stay in your comfort zone, don't do it. Do you think there was an element of them projecting?
Yeah. Do you know what? I felt that they cared about me so much that they were worried that I may fail. And, as human beings, one of the biggest fears that we have is rejection and failure. But there's another thing that I do know is that we are migratory species. We move to better ourselves. So I knew deep down inside, if I was moving to Dubai or anywhere in the world, I'm going to better myself. And that's how I've seen all of my moves throughout my career, from Corinthian Sports to UBM, to Walters Clearer, to Informer, to Responsible Investor. I've moved every single time to better myself. I haven't taken a job thinking that I'm retracting or going backwards. I've moved to move forward. And that is the one thing that I believed in myself, knowing that pivoting and moving to Dubai, to a different sector, completely different continent, I was going to better myself. And was my aim, and I strive towards that. And I believe that's what's happened.
Absolutely. So tell us more about your new role, because it's a recent promotion.
Absolutely, yeah. So advertising director across TimeOut Dubai and Doha. So it's across 2 markets. TimeOut Dubai, GCC, is a massive conglomerate, as you're very much aware. So I handle mainly clients who are based in Dubai and also clients who are based in Doha. When it comes to clients, they can vary from hospitality clients to F&B clients, food and beverage, sports, healthcare, education. So it really varies. And Dubai, as you know, 70% of its income comes through tourism these days. So hospitality is a huge key industry in this region, along with food and beverage. So most of my clients do come from those sectors. So I kind of work alongside them, building campaigns to promote their outlets. So it could be their offers, it could be seasonal campaigns such as festive, New Year's Eve, Ramadan, brunch, you name it. We cover everything basically. So that is pretty much what I do.
From listening to you, didn't necessarily seem to have too many fears about that pivot of going from London to Dubai, changing careers again, because I think you're a responsible investor for 4 months.
Yeah.
Did you also think like, oh, loyalty to them, or did you think like, okay, there is loyalty, but most importantly, loyalty to myself?
Half of my reason wanting to stay actually was loyalty. I felt that I hadn't given it a real go. And like I said, I was very complacent, very comfortable. I was doing well even within the first 4 months there. So I kind of felt that I was doing the role in injustice, and the employers an injustice, the fact that they had faith in, offering the role to execute the campaigns throughout the remainder of the year. And I wasn't going to be there to do so. So for me, it really did hurt having to leave them because, like I said, they were great employers. And for me, I just wanted to complete the task that I'd actually started. So it was a difficult time process for me. But I knew that if I am moving, that I was moving for something better. So I projected that already. And I came to Dubai with that mindset that I was going to make it work, come what may. I had people saying to me, "Oh, David, give it 6 months. Doesn't work out, you can move back to the UK." That was non-negotiable for me. I wasn't moving back to the UK. If I'm making such a big move to Dubai or to anywhere, I'm going to make it work, you know. So I really had to grind within those first 6 months because it wasn't easy. We'd just come out of recession, we'd just come out of COVID. Financially, you know, outlets were not spending. Budgets were not even, nobody was talking about budgets. So it was really going to client, you know, introducing myself and kind of starting off my client base based off that.
Can you talk us through how you did that? Because one thing I like to do with this podcast is have that 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, multiple different steps to when we say, like, you know, I did the grind. Like, what does the grind look like in this case of advertising and specifically, I guess, hospitality, sports, entertainment, you've said?
I've come from a very well-established background in advertising and worked with, you know, some of the, you know, FTSE 100s, you know, in former UBM, etc. So these establishments, you know, they have a big client base already. They have a reputation, you know. So I've come from these conglomerates who are already well-oiled machines. So I started having a client base that I was able to attack and go after. Whereas when I started here at TimeOut, because it's off the back of COVID, it was a case of having to reintroduce myself, but also explain to them the key benefits of advertising.
Which
so
are?
It was, so in terms of promotion, so in terms of obviously, you know, what were your KPIs for this year? Okay, so we want the restaurant to be full. All right, fine. Well, let's look at different, you know, digital assets to help boost the footfall for your restaurant. Are you offering, you know, a specific like ladies' night package? You know, maybe we can look at boosting that, you know, sending out email blasts to 10,000 recipients, you know, of your choice, or we can run some display banner advertising. So it adds visibility, you know, awareness, branding, etc. on our website. So those are the sort of campaigns that we were talking about initially. So it was very difficult because you had to convince clients who hadn't spent for, let's say, over a year, they haven't spent in advertising to spend again, and to actually convince them, you know, to explain to them the benefits of advertising within this sector and in this region.
So with each of these career pivots that you did, sector pivots really, how did it change your identity?
Brilliant. So how it changed for me, I learned from each sector change. So I learned something from UBM, and I took that on board with me to Waters Kluwer and vice versa. So it allowed me to grow because it allowed me to deal with different types of marketing executives, marketing managers, marketing directors, brand and partnership people. Because when you're dealing with health and safety professionals, they're more focused on their product. However, when you're dealing with medical research professionals, they're more focused on educational books. They're more focused on pieces. They're more focused on transcripts, etc. And then when you're dealing with financial institutions, they're more focused on just branding and awareness. We want to put ourselves out there. And then, of course, hospitality clients, it is realistically, it's more focused on bringing as many people to my outlet, to my hotel, to my restaurant, etc., to my brand type of thing. So I've learned to adapt whilst I've gone to different sectors. And by adapting, it is literally taking something from health and safety, taking from something from the medical research, and just adding it to my repertoire? Yeah, and kind of like, you know, being a better salesperson.
Yeah, you could also say Arsenal.
Arsenal, well, I don't like that. You know, let's stay away from that word, please.
So where's Chelsea? Where's it?
We're not going there.
Okay, all right. I'll try not to. Yeah. I had promised that I wouldn't.
Okay, fine.
So I won't.
Yeah.
But on not on that side of it, but on another side of it, you know, I think being headhunted is that special thing, isn't it? You know, everyone wants that special moment where someone just plucks them out and says you're chosen. For those people who don't get that luck in that case, what advice would you give them?
So one thing I always say to a lot of people who I mentor, a lot of people that I give advice to, is have a heavy presence on LinkedIn. Be active on LinkedIn, because you don't know whose eyes are going to see your profile. You don't know whose eyes are going to see your CV. And interestingly, I think it was about 8 months after I started my role at TimeOut, I actually sat down with my COO and I asked her, I said, by the way, where did you see my CV? Like, how did you get hold of my details? And she said it was from a recruiter who saw my CV on LinkedIn. So again, LinkedIn is a great platform to put yourself out there. It's a great platform for awareness. And it's a great platform where you can actually build your own brand. People can know who you are by looking at your profile, by seeing the content that you upload, by seeing the sort of subjects that you engage with on there. So be heavily present on that. In Dubai in particular, network. Honestly, like, networking in Dubai is one of the key components to actually driving success. I genuinely believe that. You've got to know someone to know someone. That's the case. You know, we've been brought up, you grew up in the UK. You know, in the UK and the Western world, it's more of, work hard and, you'll get to where you want to get to. Honestly speaking, in Dubai, it is about who you know. If you come across certain individuals by chance, it is because you're in the right places and you're in the right spaces. But most of the time, it's because you've been introduced to that person through one of your connections. So connect as much as you can in Dubai. Network as much as you can. Go to networking events. If people invite you, to launch events, etc., go to them. Check them out. If someone's doing a talk, go to that. Really put yourself out there, because it is about putting yourself out there that's going to actually help you in return in terms of where you want to go and your trajectory, especially in the UAE.
Yeah, I mean, there's that phrase, if you're not visible, you're invisible. Like, one of my business mentors uses that. I've heard other people use it as well. And I think with the networking events, that's another way of being visible as well. It doesn't just have to be the social media side of things, which obviously become more and more important.
Yeah.
Are there any like summits that you've gone to? Like, for me, I found Bridge Summit really, really helpful for my network, but that's because I'm in media.
Yeah.
Are the ones that are in advertising that are super helpful?
Yeah. Future Summit is really, really good. Future World, because it talks about, obviously, within that specific area or that specific region, what the future holds and how that would look like within the next, 2 to 5 years. So it's great to see, all the different trends, to see all the different new initiatives that are bubbling from those regions. And actually, you could actually put your foot in the door by saying, oh, I see that you guys are working on this project for 2028. I would love to be part of that team for that, So I would say, yeah, Future Summit for me was a great summit that really helped, broaden my horizon, especially in the UAE.
Something that's really important to you, I know, is being able to connect people, being able to help people. Obviously, Bright Exchange is part of that. How did that all come about?
Bright Exchange is a self-funded, non-for-profit initiative to help young people gain work experience, mentorship, and career advice. Now, Bright Exchange, I came up with the idea back in 2017. And that idea actually came from my mum's kitchen. It was a conversation that I had with a really good friend of mine by the name of Natalie Casey. We did a lot of youth work together within the church. And she spoke to me about running an initiative, for young people. And she said that I'd be really good at it. And I said, you know what? You're actually right. Because at the time, I was at UBM. And I was heading up their culture and diversity. And we used to have about, I would say, 3 or 4 students come in every month on work experience. And I was sourcing all of these students. And yeah, Natalie said to me one day, like, Dave, I think you should just do this through your own channel, because it seems like this is a passion of yours, because of course with the youth work, and you have access, to the corporate world. And that's how Bright Exchange came about. It was just a simple conversation. And I believe a lot of the best ideas do come from simple conversations that seem quite bland at the time, but could, erect into something, I would say, life-changing for a lot of people. To this day, I'm still getting messages from not so students anymore, young people who have graduated and said, thank you so much for investing in me for Price Exchange, because if it wasn't for Price Exchange, I wouldn't have gone to uni. I wouldn't have graduated. I wouldn't have done a master's. I've had parents reach out to me thanking me for the work that we've done with their children. So that for me is what constitutes a success. If someone says to me, what does success look like? It's not about how much money you've got. It's not about the possessions. It's not about the property, how many properties you own, et cetera, or the assets you have. For me, it's about helping others and giving something to somebody else and seeing them fulfill that. And I saw that in a lot of the students with Bright Exchange. And that just makes me happy.
It's very inspiring as well. And it's still going on now.
Yeah, there's still some mentors and mentees, that are still active. We used to do weekly sessions where we would help the students with their career advice. We used to get guest speakers in to talk about their careers, to give them advice on, interview tips or, how to pivot, challenges at work. They were really engaging with that as well because they saw different perspectives. They also saw people work within different sectors as well. And it actually inspired a lot of our students to go into those sectors. Good. Based on the conversations they were having with these professionals as well.
Since it began, how many people have you helped with that?
I would say over 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Any plans to expand it to the Middle East?
Well, do you know what? I think I had a conversation with someone recently. Yeah. And they mentioned that they can see it in the Middle East. And they said that they encouraged me to do it in the Middle East.
Okay.
Yeah. That certain someone knows who they are as well. So, yeah.
Something for 2026, maybe?
Well, let's watch this space. Yeah. I might pivot again.
How many pivots do you have in you, David? That's what I want to know. You've mentioned about how important networking is. You can network in London, you can network in Munich, you can network in Lagos, you can network anywhere in the world, obviously. But what is so special about networking in Dubai?
Networking in Dubai allows you to get into places and spaces at a much faster rate. So you can be in rooms with seriously high net worth individuals just through one conversation, through someone that you know. That doesn't happen in London. That doesn't happen in New York unless you are already in those spaces already. But in Dubai, you can fast track being in those spaces just by networking and having people that you know and connecting with the right people as well. And that's another piece of advice that I would say in Dubai is that, connect with the right people. People who are making you a better person. People who are also investing in you the same way that you're investing in them. Something
I hear from this conversation is the idea of growth, obviously career changes. How many more career changes? How many more pivots do you have in you? What would you want to pivot to? So many questions all at once. Go.
That's a really good question. No, honestly speaking, my heart is for young people. I remember when I was 16 years old and I went to school in Kent. It was an all-boys school, predominantly white. I think I was probably one of only 3 black boys in my whole entire year. And I remember we went to our careers advisor. It was like the careers day. And they would say, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And I said, I want to be a journalist. I really loved writing at the time. And I loved asking questions, interviewing, a bit like what you're doing, Sarah.
Come over to the other side.
I know.
Swap seats.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, next time, you never know. Yeah. I'll be interviewing you. But no. So, yeah, and I said to the career advisor that I want to go into journalism. I kid you not. When I looked at my paper to say where I was going for work experience, I was doing my work experience in a music studio for underprivileged kids. And it kind of it was a bit of a slap in the face because it kind of made me think, well, do you guys not value my career aspirations? Do you not believe that this is what I could aspire to? And that's when I realized there are a lot of people who look like me in the UK, a lot of young black individuals who were never given or who are not given a fair chance based on their color, based on their ethnicity, based on their gender. And that is why I really wanted to give back to young, aspiring professionals, because I believe that everybody should have a fair playing field, especially when it comes into going into the career that they want to go into.
If someone wanted to follow in your footsteps or do something similar, give us a 1, 2, 3 guide on what they could do to pivot.
I would say get a mentor. If you don't have a mentor already, get a mentor. A mentor doesn't have all the answers, but they can direct you to someone that does. And that's a key component of having a mentor. And there's so many benefits from that in terms of obviously seeking advice, in terms of that emotional encouragement, that business acumen. They come and they provide that for you. So I would definitely say that. I would say be brave, be courageous. Put your foot in the water, and really step out of the boat, and really put yourself out there. And the third one, do not burn bridges, especially in Dubai. Burning bridges sometimes might come back to haunt you. So
it sounds like a story there.
No,
David,
there's no story.
Don't worry, we don't have.
I
won't go into it. I won't press you more for that. In this final segment, it's like a quick powwow kind of thing. What's misunderstood about moving from one 9 to 5 to another 9 to 5 job?
You need to be adaptable, and you need to come with a fresh mind, a blank canvas at times. Yeah, you can bring the skill sets that you've learned from your previous 9 to 5, but you do need to understand that you have to be adaptable, because if you're not adaptable, it's just not going to work.
I want you to fill in the blank. So, before my pivot, I believed
that I was doing well.
After my pivot, I now believe
that I've exceeded my expectations.
What has your pivot taught you about progression?
So through hard work, diligence, perseverance, you can actually get to where you want to get to.
There you heard from David about how he made his career pivot. Use that as a blueprint, adapt it, and make it work for you. Because remember, don't stay stuck, pivot.